If you're watching this, you probably have or are thinking about buying a Google Pixel 10 Pro or 10 Pro XL. If that's you, I have a lot to tell you about. The Pixel 10 Pro is one of the best phones you can get for taking photos, especially if all you want to do is point and shoot and know that you'll get something good. But if you really want to up your game and take advantage of all the cool features your Pixel has to offer, then let's dive right in with my first tip on mastering your Pixel 10 Pro's camera: 50 megapixel shooting. If you open up your camera, tap the gear icon, and tap the Pro tab, you might see this setting, which swaps your main lens from 12 megapixels to 50 megapixels. What does this do, and how does this help you get better shots? Well, let me first explain what this does, and then I'll tell you why and when you should use it. So, this is the main lens on the back of your Pixel, which has a 50 megapixel sensor. By default, your camera doesn't use the full power of this sensor, and instead uses a system called pixel binning to capture shots at a reduced 12 megapixels. Essentially, instead of using all the individual pixels your sensor has to offer, it combines 4 adjacent pixels into one super pixel. This virtual pixel can capture more light information and capture it more quickly than when you're using all the individual pixels. So, you get a faster shutter button and better shots in low lighting at the cost of resolution. But if you're in good lighting and want a photo with as much detail as possible, using all the pixels of your 50 megapixel sensor is the only way to go. Here are 2 images captured with my Pixel 10 Pro. Right now, they look pretty similar, but zoom in a bunch and you'll see that the 50 megapixel shot has much more detail. Having 50 megapixel mode on for something like this might be the difference between getting the shot you need and not getting it. But remember that the 12 megapixel setting is better for low light situations. For these, I had night sight turned off to emphasize the difference. It's clear that the 12 megapixel shot came out better because pixel binning is better at capturing more light. There are 2 other things to keep in mind when it comes to 50 megapixel shots. First, 50 megapixel photos contain a lot more information, so the file sizes are much bigger. This is important to note if you have a 128 gigabyte Pixel, as that storage space can fill up fast. The second thing is that if you have the 50 megapixel setting active, some Pixel features won't work, such as Top Shot, Motion Photo, and others. So my advice is to turn the 50 megapixel setting on when you need it, but turn it off when you don't. Okay. First bonus tip of the video. When you want to get a shot of something very small or capture a fine detail of an object, be sure to use macro focus. Just open your camera, tap the gear icon, and make sure macro focus is either set to turn on automatically or permanently active. Now, when you get really close to something, tap on what you want to focus on, and you'll get a much crisper shot of the tiny details. This, combined with 50 megapixel mode, can create some truly awesome photos. Google's camera software is great at automatically fixing your quick snaps, so pretty much anyone can capture something that looks like a pro took it with minimal effort. But imagine how much better a photo you could get if what you give the software is already good to begin with. That's actually easier to do than you might expect with Google's quick access camera controls. These controls are not on by default. To turn them on, open the camera app, hit the gear icon, and then hit the 3 dots you see up here. Scroll down and make sure the quick access controls toggle is on. Now, when you're using the camera app, just tap the viewfinder anywhere and the quick controls will appear. This one controls exposure, this one controls shadows, and this one controls white balance. The white balance one is probably the one I use the least. Google's automatic white balance detection is really good already, so you only need to manually adjust it if you're in a really bizarre lighting situation, like my office, which has a lot of red lights, and also happens to be where my partner and I are fostering some really cute kittens. The exposure and shadows dials are what you should be using the most. Let me show you what a difference this makes. In this shot, we have a Pixel 10 with a very bright window behind it. Now, this is a tough shot, and the best thing to do would be to move the phone to a different place. But we can make this work with some tweaks. If I tap on the viewfinder to focus on the phone, the Pixel looks like it's pretty dark. But if I manually move the dials, I can find a better balance that makes the phone less dark than the software thinks it should be. Here's the shot using just the standard viewfinder tap next to the same photo that I manually tuned. This helped me make a photo that was probably not worth using to something that is at least salvageable. Here's my second bonus tip. Use the raw photos setting. On the same Pro tab where you activate 50 megapixel shooting, you can activate RAW saving. When this is on, your phone saves 2 files for every photo. A standard JPEG that's been enhanced with Google's AI-based algorithmic photography features, and a second RAW file that is untouched. If you have that RAW file, you can use a photo editor like Photoshop or Lightroom to finely tune it. There are tons of great tutorials on YouTube on how to make the most of RAW photos, so watch some of those and make your Pixel photos be exactly what you want them to be. Portrait mode is one of the best features of any smartphone camera. This adds an artificial bokeh effect to your phones. If you don't know what that means, let me show you. This photo is captured using a professional mirrorless camera. See how the Pixel 10 is in focus and my face isn't? This is called natural bokeh, because the blur you see around my face was created naturally by the huge camera lens glass. Obviously, smartphone camera lenses aren't that big, so they create very little natural bokeh. The solution to this is artificial bokeh, which is just what it sounds like, using algorithmic photography to mimic natural bokeh. By swapping into portrait mode on your Pixel, you can make your shots look really dynamic by adding in some fake bokeh. Here's an example of a portrait mode shot captured with the Pixel 10 Pro. See how the trees behind me are nice and blurry? It draws more attention to me and the phone. This is all well and good, but what do you do if you take a photo and forget to turn portrait mode on? Thankfully, Google Photos is here to save you. In this photo, I had portrait mode turned off. The background of the shot has no bokeh effect at all, so it looks like the bookshelf and plant are smaller than they really are and right next to me. They also distract from the subject, which is me. This is not how a real camera would capture this shot, and bokeh would make it look much better. To fix this in Google Photos, tap the Edit button, and then tap the Tools button, and scroll over a bit to find the Portrait Blur tool. Now, let's fix this photo. There are 2 dials here, Blur and Depth. The Blur tool either cranks up or removes the blur effect. The Depth tool lets you choose how much of the photo to blur. For this photo, I'm going to set the Blur tool to 50% and then move over to the Depth tool. I'll move that slider until I'm happy with the edge detection and then jump back to the Blur tool to set the bokeh level to something that I think looks natural. So now I can save this new version. Look at the difference between the original and this edited one. Pretty cool, right? Keep in mind that while your Pixel's lenses are small, they do produce a small amount of natural bokeh. So not every photo you take will be able to be fully saved with this process. Still, this is a powerful tool that everyone should know about. Ready for another bonus tip? If you want to take a photo of something that moves pretty fast, like a car driving by, you might have trouble grabbing the shot. Either you get something like this that makes it seem like the car is simply parked, or you might end up capturing a blurry mess. This is where Action Pan can be really helpful. Open your camera and go all the way to the left until you're on the Action Pan setting. Now, when you photograph a fast-moving object, the Pixel software will keep the subject in crisp focus while blurring the background around it, giving the impression of motion. Give this a shot next time you're trying to photograph something while it's moving. If you're out on a beautiful night and want to capture the stars you see, you'll probably just take a quick photo. But when you do, what you get doesn't look nearly as vibrant and beautiful as what your eyes saw. This is because the stars are so far away that the short amount of exposure time your camera had didn't capture them all. To really get a good shot of the night sky, you need to use Astrophotography Mode, which is exclusive to Pixel phones. In order for this to work best, you'll want to be sure there is as little light pollution as possible, and for your phone to be absolutely still. You can use a tripod for this, or you can do your best to lean your phone against a rock or something so it's pointed at the sky, but totally motionless. Once you've got your phone set up, initiate Astrophotography Mode by opening your camera and switching over into Night Sight mode. Tap the little moon icon you see on the right, and then move the slider that appears all the way over until you see Astro. Now, you're in Astrophotography mode. Hit the shutter button and you'll see a countdown. When it's done counting down, your phone will capture the night sky for up to 4 minutes. When it's done, you'll get an absolutely amazing shot of the stars. You'll also get a nifty little video clip that shows what the sky did during those 4 minutes. Sweet. Yet another bonus tip for you here, which is the long exposure mode. What Astrophotography Mode is really doing is taking a very long exposure shot and then cleaning it up with a special algorithm. But you can do long exposure shots on your own to create some really neat effects. Here's a long exposure shot of some cars driving by at night. To do this, open your camera, swipe over to long exposure, and then take your shot. Your phone will take a long time to capture the photo, and when it's done, you'll have something very unique. We're reaching the end of this video here, and I have one more thing to tell you about, which is Pro Controls. This is a feature that's actually relatively new to Pixels. Previously, Google felt that people didn't need Pro Controls because Google believed what its software produced was as good as it gets. But after a ton of fan demand, Pixels with Pro in the name have Pro Controls for photography. Open up your camera and tap the settings icon at the lower right. You'll find a bunch of tools here, including shutter speed, ISO, and focus. Note that if you have a regular Pixel 10, these three tools won't be there. Using these tools in combination with the exposure, shadows, and white balance controls that appear when you tap the viewfinder basically turns your Pixel into a professional camera. By practicing with these settings, you can take photos that look exactly how you want them to look. Of course, it takes practice. Let me show you an example of what you can do though. By increasing the shutter speed to 1/1000th of a second, you can get mesmerizing photos of really fast moving things, like this mushroom falling into a bowl of water. With the focus slider, you can manually focus your shot precisely how you like, and even see focus peaking colors as you do it. There are tons of videos online that will help you learn more about these settings and how best to use them for different types of photos. Remember that these are the same settings that appear on professional cameras. So, anything you learn on your phone can then transfer to a pro camera in the future. All right, final bonus tip of the video here, which is autofocus lock. We've already covered how when you tap the viewfinder, you can choose which subject you want to focus on. But what if what you're trying to focus on is a flower that's slightly blowing in the breeze? Autofocus might not work well here. For this shot, you'll want to lock focus by long pressing on the subject. This will stop your phone from altering focus at all, so you know the flower will be crisp when you take that shot. Just remember that if you physically move with a focus lock active, the subject will no longer be in focus. You'll need to tap on the screen to remove the lock and then re-lock from your new position. I hope this video has been helpful for you. I'm excited to hear all about the great photos you're able to capture on your Pixel. If you want to share them with me, my social media accounts are all in the description of this video. Just send them my way. I'll definitely repost some of the really impressive ones. Also, if you know of some cool Pixel photography tips I didn't cover here, jump down in the comments and tell us about them. I'm sure future viewers will really appreciate that. And before you go, if you want to watch a similar video of mine, but focused on video settings, check out this one here, which was shot entirely on a Pixel 10 Pro phone. If you haven't already, subscribing to my channel would also mean a lot to me. I'll see you all down in the comments.